Church intro video. Church intro video. Church intro video. Church intro video. So it's the church intro video, and right now the church intro video is going. And so it's the countdown. That's the church intro video. Welcome to the church intro video. Hello, the best. Welcome from my living room / dining room. Hello, Zadie from a settee that is in the same room as me. Hello, Chef Biggs. Biggs is cooking our dinner for us because we were busy today. We'll talk about that in a minute. The best, it's going well. Because you're a grammar Nazi, so I say well. Because you're a grammar Nazi. I need to get my new... I have new thingies that Heather created that are like little icons, and it's of Cholomander, and I need to get them loaded into Twitch. I keep forgetting. Two of them are Cholomander dancing. That she do 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 do. I don't know why that song stuck in my head. Every day, I long for what's plain to see. Every day, I long to be. Yes, that's a much better song. I'm not going to sing it on stream, but that's a much better song. Alright. Yes, I kind of do like it up here. I think this is going to work out very well. I think we're going to put him right there. Might work. We'll see. That's the easy stuff. Later. 50 seconds. I can't pull this off. I'm still shocked. Putting on a clean shirt on a dirty body feels weird too. I'm not gonna talk about that on stream. I'm afraid of how you're peekabooing there, the beast. Best. You on the stairs, peekaboo? If you come up here and scare me, I'm not gonna be a happy camper. 5 seconds. Almost camera live. All right, and there we go. Okay. Hello and welcome to season 3, episode 89 of the Berean Manifesto. Faith, hope, and love for the modern Christian. I'm Pastor Noobs, and wow, you look tired. Thanks. My eyes might be droopier than normal, but that's mean. The best. Very mean. So, couple things. You guys might notice some stuff if you are watching instead of listening. If you're listening, you won't notice anything of what I'm talking about, and you should join us on Sunday nights and watch. But you might notice this is a completely different room. Now you might not fully be able to tell, um, but like you see the things are hung up there. The poster's in a slightly different place. There's less wall. We are in a completely different part of the house. With the help of the best, Phoenix, Zadie, both the girls, and Biggs and myself doing very little work because I'm lazy. We moved my entire office from downstairs to upstairs. The best, you moved the thing that everything sits on up here with me. I understand that Biggs did the majority of everything, let's be honest. And Serafina was a huge help. And Zadie was a huge help. And Rain was here as much as I could. He moved the chair. He moved this. He helped move stuff out of my office while I was having a mild panic attack. I think he did a little more. You did nothing. Bullcrap too. Okay, anyway. So this week's been a little crazy. We are getting ready for some changes in our house. We're fixing to have a new roommate. And so because of that, we've been moving rooms around. We moved the girls' room a little while ago. We moved the guest room. We flipped the guest room and Serafina's old room. We moved everything around. And we actually drilled holes in my house to run internet upstairs. Which that was an interesting experience today. I had all of this set up sitting on a small table downstairs in case we didn't get the internet moved and up on time. I would be at this like little tiny table in a room that's completely empty and would have been so echoey. Which the echo might be up here for now because this room is not finished. But yeah, we got lots of stuff hung. Biggs hung 2 of the puzzles that had not been hung yet, which gives me motivation to complete the puzzle that is downstairs. I'm hoping with this setup of this room, this new office, quote unquote, I might be able to pull off having a puzzle table up here. I don't know if I'm going to pull it off, but that'd be really cool. So we'll see. So it's been a crazy week. Work is real busy. Got a lot going on at work. But life is good. Life is good. We've got some big changes. Next week, I have no idea how I'm going to be next week because I am actually flying to DFW, helping my friend pack the truck, and then driving out here on Friday and then Saturday. And then, so Sunday early, we'll be unloading the truck and bringing all his stuff up. So that's going to be great. He's going to be around a lot more, which is a lot of fun. And so we're going to be good. But life is crazy over the next couple of weeks, and that's okay. That is I have the hiccups. That is okay. All right. I think I am sufficiently warmed up because I know I'm talking a mile a minute because I am as the best said, I am actually really tired. So, we might get a little Pastor Nooms uncut if we're not careful today. All right. So, now it's everyone's favorite time of the night, except me. Get to know the pastors, where I'm going to pull my chat card. Let's see what our question for today is. Our question for today is, if you had to change your first name, what would be your new first name? Ha ha ha! Alright, y'all. This is the easiest one in this entire deck. This is the easiest question. Because obviously, my first name is not actually Nooms. But yet, that's what I call myself. That's what my grandchildren. Woo. I ain't that old. That's what my godchildren call me. That's what my wife calls me. It's what my sister calls me. It's what everyone calls me. Except for in my professional life over here in the medical programming world. Other than that, everyone calls me Nooms. And has for um over 20 years. Yeah, even my parents do. On occasion, my mother even does, which is really funny when Grandma Gloria does. That's really funny. Anyway, um, my wife's parents call me. I mean, everyone calls me Nooms, and as you guys know, you think I do it just during chat, but I call Biggs all the time too. That's just normal. And don't pay too much attention to my nails. They're really bad for moving stuff all day, and we did not have time to fix them. But that's okay. So just don't look too closely at my nails. I'll move my hands really fast, so that way that won't happen. All right, cool. So yeah, I'd change my name to Nooms. It's a pretty easy one. My wife, I can answer hers right off the bat. It would be Zadie. She loves Zadie. Um, Oh, thank you, Phoenix, for saying that because they feel really, really bad. Um, my girls, I'm not sure for my girls what they would change their name to. I'm pretty sure Sarah would actually change her name to Serafina, though. I'm pretty sure she would finish that elongation, and Rain might actually go with Rain. Phoenix says she would not call herself Phoenix, and that's okay. That's okay. Um, um, but Groggy is getting accustomed to being called Mr. Groggy. Um, we have so many people with Mr. Groggy's first name in our lives. um, we have to call Mr. Groggy all the time because of how many people we have that are has his first name. Um, so that's fun. Sorry, I just clapped and that echoed on there. Um, and not a housemate. I don't understand what Phoenix. Oh yes, our housemate who is going to be here in less than 7 days is uh yeah, this is a softball question, and that's okay. That's okay. I would really be interested in Pastor Bill's answer. Um, but that's hate it. Don't get it today. Okay, so we are sufficiently warmed up. We're actually about a minute earlier than we normally are with our warm up because we're at 14 minutes, but that's okay. So I will recap last week. So for one of the first times for me, we have done a part two. So last week we talked about relationships for the modern Christian. We talked about our spouses, and we talked about our children. We talked about our significant others. When Zadie walks around up here, you can see her in the glare of the Boondock Saints poster, which I didn't realize, which is funny. So we talked about spouses and how we should treat them, and verses that are used a lot and then taken out of context and taken too far, and people only like to follow the first half and not the second half. You have to go back and listen to get the full details. That's episode 88. for all those people out. Well, 388, depending on how you're listening. We talked about our children and how we should love our children and treat our children correctly and raise them correctly, not just authoritative ness. How we have to have the give and take, and we have to, you know, children have to be handled correctly. And so we talked about that. And then we were going to talk about friendship. But I talked a lot and we ran out of time. So I split it into two because we can do that if we get into a topic. So the reason I wanted to include friendship so much in when we're talking about relationships overall is because of the fact that Zadie, don't crawl across the floor. Just walk. That is so distracting. She's crawling across the floor. Alright, so friendship. So friendships are so important because let's be honest, when you deal with relationships, all the relationships we have in life, spouse, a lot of us only have one or a few in our lives. Children, most of us have one, two, three, some have, upwards of 10, 12, but, most of us have just a few. Friendship, though, we deal with on a daily basis, and most people have more friends throughout their lifetimes than they will spouse or children. So friendship is so important, and friendship is some have friendship is one of those things where when we talk about friendship, it's more than just friendship. It's how we interact with people while we are being friendly. It's how we you know the people we interact with, how we should be doing friendship evangelism, how we should be, growing the community of people around us. As Phoenix said, there are some times in your life where you have none. You have no friends at the moment. I know both Phoenix and Zadie have gone through long amounts of time like that. And Phoenix has built a nice little community now for herself around her. And now that Zadie is working again, she's making friends even though she won't admit to it. She's probably going right now, but she has, I promise. See, she said blah before I see, I love my wife. So one of those things is in those friendships and those community. Oh, Phoenix meant kids, not friends. That makes more sense because Phoenix has no kids, except for nieces and nephews of friends and her community. I just kicked my computer. That is not gonna work where I've put it, because I just kicked it hard. So we're gonna move that after stream. The that did not work. Okay. So friendships. So we really have to look at all these facets of people that come into our lives and how we should treat them. And we have the story, which is not in my notes at all, but you have the story of how you should treat your neighbors and treat your people around you. And we deal with the person on the road, the Good Samaritan. When we look at the story of the Good Samaritan, and I'm going to have to look it up real quick what the reference is of it because I didn't have it pulled up for this. So, when we look at something like that, how should we look at the Good Samaritan? Luke 10:25 through 27. Okay, Luke 10 25 through 37. So we're going to read in the CSB. And I'm gonna have to type it out because I don't have it in my notes. 10:25 through 37. There was an expert of the law stood up testing him being Jesus, saying, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he asked him. "How do you read it?" So Jesus asked him a question back. And he answered, he being the expert of the law, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." Jesus answers, "You've answered correctly," he told him. "Do this and you will live." But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus took up the question and said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell in the hands of robbers. They stripped him, beat him, and fled, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down that road. When he saw him, he passed by on the other side. In the same way, a Levite, when he arrived at the place, saw him and passed by the other side. But a Samaritan on his journey came up to him. When he saw the man, he had compassion. He went over to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring in olive oil and wine, and then put him on his own animal, brought him to the inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, "Take care of him. When I come back, I'll reimburse you for whatever extra you had to spend." Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell in the hands of the robbers? "The one who showed mercy to him," he said. Jesus said, "Go and do the same." Now, there's a couple things to look at here when we talk about neighbor, and I'm going to equate neighbors and friends in some of this, but then friends, of course, there's different layers of friendship, but neighbors is that like outer circle of friends, like people that you should be friendly with but aren't friends, like acquaintances almost. But in that, those people we should even treat this well. So if you look at the Jews and you look at the Samaritans, they did not like each other. We've talked about that in the past on other podcasts. They did not like each other at all, not even a little. And so the fact that he, the Samaritan, took care of the man is huge. So much so they didn't like each other. When the man gave Jesus his answer, he did not even say it was the Samaritan. He said it's the one who showed him mercy, because he didn't want to admit that in Jesus' story, in the parable that he gave, that it was a Samaritan who did the good thing, because we can't talk about that. Like, it's got to be, And so, because of that, that's one example of like that outer circle. And that's the outer circle. That's just the person you walk up to on the street type of friendship. So then we have, other types of friends as you get closer into your inner circle. And we're going to cover a couple of those in this friendship talk that we're having tonight. And, by talk, I mean, of course, I'm talking and I'm hoping others are talking back to me. And we're going to go from there. Now, as Big said in here, the Jonathan and David. Now, when we look at the relationship of Jonathan and David, they were so close. They were inseparable. That's the kind of friendship. That's that inner circle friendship. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of verses throughout, down when we get down to the very bottom, those people that are so close to you. So the first one we want to look at here is 1 Thessalonians 5:11. And so when we're looking at this, 1 Thessalonians 5:11. So this is talking about the day of the Lord. And so he's talking to brothers and sisters, in Christ. He's talking through the whole thing, and he says, "Therefore," and we should always back up a little when he says "therefore," so we'll jump up to 9. "For God has not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ, who died for us, that while we were awake or asleep we may live, that whether we are awake or asleep we may live together with him. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, as you are already doing." So, for the people in Thessalonica, the people that Thessalonians was written to, because we're not going to try to say that word again, Paul says, hey, you're doing it already. You're encouraging each other. Keep it up. It's so important. And so that's one of those things, we see an encouragement from Paul of, hey, you're doing it right. I'm not even correcting you. Just keep it up. You're doing good. So we've got to continue to do that in our own lives. So one of the next area I want to go to is Ecclesiastes. And in Ecclesiastes, when we're looking at 4:7 through, and start here in 7, and it says, again, I saw futility under the sun. There was a person without a companion, without even a son or a brother, and there was no end to all his struggles. His eyes are still not content with riches. Who am I struggling for, he asks, and depriving myself of good things? This too is futile and a miserable task. And we're going to keep going into 9. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their efforts. For if either falls, his companion can lift him up. But pity the one who falls without another to lift him up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they can keep warm. But how can one person alone keep themselves warm? And if someone overpowers one person, 2 can resist him. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And that's kind of where it wraps up. This particular section, and then we move on to, something about kings. But when we look at that, this is an Old Testament aspect of looking at, okay, you've got to have relationships. People have to be in your lives. Otherwise, you can't really go at it. So that's starting to talk about that close friendship this is one of those examples of, hey, you should have someone who's close to you who can pick you up when you fall, and that aspect of, you should have someone who can pick you up when you fall. In order to have that, you must be willing to pick other people up when they fall. It's a two-way street with situations like that. You can't just be like, I'm gonna do this, and you're gonna do this for me, and that's not friendship. Friendship is both sides. So you have to be able to come together, as it talks about, like a rope. 3 strands is best, 2 strands is better than 1. When you start to curl that. I just thought of a really funny example. So I used to vape real heavy, and like the competition coils, and used to make my own wire, used to spin my own wire and make my own coils. And if you ran one wire and just ran it, it would burn, it would turn on and off, on and off, on and off. No big deal. If you ran 2, or you ran 3, I ran a fat one and 2 small ones, and they would all become one big thing, and they would heat at different temperatures, and the taste would be phenomenal because of that combined strength of the 3 wires together, that group of people we have, that community we have, things like that, is so important. So we're going to jump down to kind of a funny example that I found when I was researching this topic, which is not super funny, but it's funny if you know the situation, which is Job 6:14. And Job's kind of an interesting book. Job loses everything, and his kids die. His everything gets destroyed. His farm, his lands, his vineyard, everything. Well, then he's got these friends that show up, and they blame him for all of it, even though he was just. And it's really funny because he did not have good friends. And so then right here he writes in 6:14, a despairing man should receive loyalty from his friends, even if he abandons the fear of the Almighty. Like, even if this was my fault, you should still be my friend. And for one of these aspects, it's funny because of the story, but I pulled this also for the fact that when we're talking about friendship, our circle of friends does not have to be 100% Christian, and shouldn't be if we believe in friendship evangelism. But Even if someone walks away, if he abandons the fear of the Almighty, if they act a fool, it doesn't matter. We should still support our friends. That doesn't mean we have to, you know, help them with destructive things, but we should always be there and be loyal and be bringing them up. Um, so that's something I found interesting that was written. So the next one we're going to look at um, is in John, and this is Jesus talking again. Um, John 15:23. John 15:12 and 13. And in this area, he's talking about how he is the vine and different aspects of it. And right here he talks about, this is my command, love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down his life for his friends. And then, when we look at that, um, here we will actually continue on. Here in verse 14 he says, you are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants anymore, because a servant doesn't know what his master is doing. I've called you my friends because I have made known to you everything I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce fruit, and your fruit shall remain, so that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, I will give you. This is what I command you, love one another. So I'm going to change that to through 17. Yeah. And I find it interesting here when he's given this parable, and then he's like, no, in all seriousness, like, love each other. You should be willing to give your life for your friends. And he's also alluding to the fact that he's about to give his life for his friends and his people. And so we really have to look at that and take that to heart, that whole aspect of, loving each other, helping to bring each other up. And, this is still, this is that middle area between acquaintance and like best friend scenario. But when the next thing we're going to look at here is in Proverbs. So we're going back to the Old Testament. So we're jump to Proverbs. Proverbs 17. And we're going to go 17 through 18. This is, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a difficult time. Now, my sister, who is Phoenix, knows that a brother is born for a difficult time. That poor girl has been put through it by her evil older brother. But that's beside the point. One without sense enters an argument and puts up security for his friend. One who loves to offend loves strife, but one who builds a high threshold invites injury. One whose twisted mind does not succeed. One whose deceitful speech will run. A man fathers a fool to his own sorrow. A father of a fool has no joy. We're continuing on through this, but that section that's so important is, a friend loves at all times. One without sense enters an argument and puts up security for his friend. So, a friend loves at all time, but we don't do crazy things that are detrimental to ourselves and our friends just because we're friends. So, like, if your friend owes a bookie a whole bunch of money, don't go put up your money just because your boy is probably going to pay him off in the next few minutes, because your boy might not. So you have to, don't bet against people just because. If your friend is in the wrong, don't just go and defend them. If your friend, you got two people that are arguing, and they're like, I bet you $100 that, I've got 7 kids. And the guy's like, yeah, I know you have 8. And starts arguing with him when your friend is being wrong. And you just walk up and you're like, yep, he's right. He's always right. Put your money down. No, don't go into situations and harm yourself just because you have a friend. Now, on the flip side, of course, someone will give his life for his friend. So we have to look at that. There's some gray area there. Um, like because of that, we have to um, look at that on a situational benefit basis. Is this healthy for my friend? Am I causing them harm? Am I causing them, it will do this make their lives better or worse? So sometimes we do have to look at situations like that. Um, but that's a case by case basis that you have to take up with the Holy Spirit of when you should charge in, but don't charge in to the defense of your friend when they are wrong, and you're just going to get yourself into more trouble. And Zadie said, "What? How do you forget a kid? Exactly. Don't argue with someone when they're talking about how many kids they have when you don't know. Like you're gonna lose, unless you're the one guy off that old Arthur movie who didn't even name his kids. He numbered them because he cared about them that little. That guy might be wrong on how many kids he has. But other than that, it's probably not going to happen. So, um, in talking about friends and in talking about, stuff like this, there is something that we have to look at that is important, which is Proverbs 27:17. And this is probably maybe the most quoted verse when it comes down to uh, friendships. And it's iron sharpens iron, and one person sharpens another. So what this means is, if you've ever seen, um, a knife, person who's working a knife, person who's doing, they rub, against that iron bar to make it sharpen. Now, to be clear, just for anyone out here who knows this, when you do that, it only gives you a little bit of a sharpness. If you don't have that edge already made, if you're not trying to be sharp, it won't sharpen. That's not going to sharpen it. You have to use a whetstone. But that's beside the point. That's part of this, though. You should be surrounding yourselves, your close inner circle, that circle that is like your best people. They should be able to sharpen you. You should both have a point. You should both be trying to go the same direction, um, to a certain degree. And you guys, there should be qualities that they can sharpen. Now, does that mean every friend that is in that perfect circle is exactly like you and has the same goals in mind and is walking in the same? No. I have two best friends. One of them you all know is Pastor Bill. One of them you'll meet again at some point. Um, and he is completely different. Him and Bill are polar opposites. Not fully, but in a lot of ways. But there are aspects that are exactly the same. He helps keep me humble. He helps keep me grounded. He helps remind me that I have to love people, just like Pastor Bill does. There's things that he sharpens me on. He challenges me professionally. There are aspects that he's pushing me towards. And so you have to have in that inner group people who are going to challenge you, people who are going to push you. You can't just have yes men surrounding you, or else you're not going to sharpen yourself. You're going to end up cutting dull meat all day. And if you're cutting and cutting and cutting and you're the only one who is sharp, or you're the only one who is trying, you're going to end up duller by the end. There's always this phrase you hear so often, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And to a large degree, that's true. If you don't have friends that are going to sharpen you, then you will end up duller. So you kind of have to look at things like that. It's so important. Um, And, you know, that's really all I got for this is we have to look at each other and we have to understand that we are we are called to have friends as Christians. We should not be doing life alone. Um, if you're in a church that doesn't have small groups, find one. If you don't have a community, set out to find one. You know, check Twitch for random things that you like to do, like Phoenix with building Legos and stitching things. Um, there's a whole community out there of people that are like that. The internet has allowed us to connect with them. So find people that challenge you and help build you up. And that's what we got to do. We've got to do life together with our friends moving forward, trying to be better. Um, so yeah, find some friends, love on each other, be good to each other, you know, those things. Yeah, those are important. And that's all I have. So we love you guys. Yes, and as Phoenix said, you have to love yourself too, which sometimes stinks, but we have to try every day. Have to try. Um, so we love you guys. We hope you guys have a great week. You guys be safe out there, and until next time. Now, for those of you that are still here, because you guys are live, we have to do a little thing that puts a buffer on the end of it, so that way we can make sure it doesn't get cut off on any of the streaming services. So, it's time for the 30-second buffer. And how the 30-second buffer goes is it goes like this. 30-second buffer. 30-second buffer. 30-second buffer. Has it been 30 seconds yet? Ding! No, that's not how time works. That's not how life works. That's not how the little counter at the bottom goes. 30-second buffer. 30-second buffer. 30-second buffer. Alright, I'm going to press the buttons now. We love you. Be safe.